Hello everybody, this is Jason Napalm from the UK, coming back with another Sermons on the Go. Tonight we're going to be looking at subjects of faith, hope and love. Faith, hope and love. We're going to be looking at the verses 1 Corinthians chapter 13, Galatians chapter 5 verse 6, and then we're going to look at the definition of the word hope. We tend to know what the word faith means, we tend to know what the word love means, but sometimes we may get hope and faith confused. Now the word hope, clicking onto the definition, the definition of the King James version of hope says a desire of some good, accompanied with at least a slight expectation of obtaining it, or a belief that it is obtainable. Hope differs from a wish and desire in this, that it implies some expectation of obtaining the good desired, or the possibility of possessing it. Hope, therefore, always gives pleasure or joy, whereas wish and desire may produce or be accompanied with pain and anxiety. Now, let me put that into Jason terms. With hope, it simply means an expectation of something good. When you take all of what was said here, it means that you're expecting something good to happen, like the hope that you're hoping to get married, hoping to have a baby, hoping to get a job, these kind of things. And then the greatest thing of all is the hope that Jesus will come back, the hope that we will be one day in heaven with the Lord. And so hope is not wishful thinking, is not wishing. The worldly version of hope is when you hear people say, oh, well, I hope so. Well, what they actually mean is when they say, I hope so, it means that they wish that it would happen. And nothing happens by wishing. We don't receive anything from God. We don't get anywhere by wishing that things are going to happen. Okay? So, hope, therefore, always gives pleasure or joy. When you have hope in something, when you have hope in your prayers being answered, or hope in something good happening in your life, that will be accompanied with joy and with expectation and with happiness. When you wish for something, it can carry anxiety or pain, or negative kind of things. So, it also says hope is also confidence in a future event. The highest degree of well-founded expectation of good. So when we have our hope in God, and if you run some references to all the different verses in the Bible, both Old and New Testament, you'll find a lot of verses on hope. And it is important that we have hope, that we have biblical hope, not worldly hope. And when I say worldly hope, that is basically wishful thinking. Okay, I think I've explained that pretty clear. So let's turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Let's start with verse 1. I'm reading from the King James Version. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, actually this is New King James, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burnt, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Now, the New King James uses the word love. The King James AV says charity. Now, it's an important thing to know there, because we need to know what love means. Okay, we need to know what the biblical word love means. When you look at the word charity, it gives you the idea of being a charitable person. And when you think of a charitable person, you think of a person who will give their last penny, who will give to help people out, who is very kind, very generous. And so a person of charity would be a person who gives. So that is why I prefer the authorised version of the King James, because let me just read it. Let's start with verse 1 again. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, or a love that is giving, a love that is generous, okay, I'm become as a sounding brass or tinkling cymbal. And though I have to give the prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I can remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profits me nothing. See, we see there, it says, I bestow all my goods to feed the poor. Wouldn't you say that's a charitable deed? Well, it's a charitable deed, but it doesn't mean that it was done in charity, with a charitable heart. Because we all know that there is people in this world that give to the poor and give to organisations, but they do it to score points. They can do it to, boost their good reputation rating. Instead of doing it actually from their heart, they're more like, oh, I've got so much money, I'll give to that poor organisation, give that poor organisation, and not really think much of it, other than it makes them look better. Charity suffers long and is kind. Charity does not envy. Charity does not parade itself. And it says, vaunteth not itself. So we'll go back to the King James New. It does not parade itself. It doesn't go around with an egotistical look. It doesn't appear to be egotistical. It doesn't appear to be big-headed. Think of the idea of someone parading themselves, like someone on the catwalk, like prancing about. Don't even get me to try and do that. And then it goes on to say, it is not puffed up. Puffed up is a bit like the peacock when it sort of puffs its chest out. And, with the animal kingdom, basically, when another animal comes along, of the same sex normally, like males, they tend to puff their chests up like gorillas. And love does not go around making itself look like a tough guy or trying to make itself look bigger than it actually is. It does not behave itself unseemly. Okay, so the New King James says, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, which again is seeking your own will, your own desires, what you want in life, and you're, a bit like two children. Well, I want to have the first go of the computer. Well, no, I do. That kind of thing. If you're a person of love, like my children, sometimes they do say, I want to go first, and the other one says, I want to go first, and then they bicker, or argue, or even cry, scream. But the majority of the time, they say, okay, you go first, then I'll go after. So we are getting somewhere. It's not easily provoked. It doesn't think any evil. It does not rejoice in iniquity, which means wickedness, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things. Now, bears all things is it bears up under all things. When it says about Jesus, who himself bare our sicknesses and carried our diseases, or himself bare our infirmities and carried our sicknesses, the word bear there is to carry up. And to bear all things is a bit like the image of a bridge holding up things. And when you're a person of love, when things come to run you over, or you get heavy loads going over you, you can hold that up. You can hold that up with an action and an attitude of love. You can take it. Believe all things. Obviously not, not super open-minded, but believe all things. Believes the best of all things. Some one particular Bible teacher, he teaches that when it says believes all things, it's referring to believing the best of a person. Okay, I like that. What he says there, that you believe the best of a person. It hopes all things. It expects things that are good and positive to happen, and it endures all things. Charity never fails. Now, if we go down to verse 13, and now abides. The word abide means to continue. Now abides, continues faith, hope, and charity. These three, but the greatest of these is charity. So we've got faith, hope, and charity there. And we're seeing what love does. Now, having established what love does, that love, when it says suffers long, that is like when you're long suffering with something, it's like you're very patient and you're very understanding and kind and loving towards that person while doing it. And going back to the word charity, if you say to someone in the world, or even other Christians, what does a loving person mean? Well, it typically means they're kind. They might be gentle, they might be kind, they might be, willing to put other people first. And that's the general idea of love. But if you want a deeper understanding of the Bible and what it says about love, there's different words for the word love. There's agape, or agape, which is the God kind of love, is the love that comes from God. Then you got eros, which is the erotic love. Then you got phileo, which is a family kind of love, and stuff like that. So there's different kinds of love in the Greek words. Typically, when the Bible tells us to walk in love, and when Jesus says love your neighbour as yourself, he's talking about being kind and doing acts of charity, of being charitable, of being giving yourself over so that their need is met before yours. And we see the classic example of that with the Good Samaritan. He was a person of love. He put the man who was injured before himself. He was on a journey, but he stopped by, looked after the man, paid for him out of his own money to stay at the local inn, and then gave him medicine, and then gave the innkeeper extra money to look after him, make sure he's got food and drink. So, let's turn to Galatians chapter 5, verse 6. Galatians 5, verse 6 says, "For in Jesus Christ neither circumcision avails anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which works by love." Now, it's important that we know that as much as we hear people say, oh, this man's a great man of faith, this person's a great person of faith. And I do see on Facebook, people do tend to say, oh, my faith is strong, I've got a lot of faith and I'm a person of faith. Well, that's good. But you don't hear a lot of people say, I'm a person of love. That person's a man of love. Because in the day and age that we live in, being a person of love sounds like you're being a doormat. It sounds like you're a person who's going to be taken advantage of. It opens you up to become a person of love. It opens you up to being mistreated, abused, and all the rest of it. Because the love that we've probably given out and received abuse from, the love that we've given out and received bad treatment and people doing us wrong, taking advantage of us and all the rest of it, that wouldn't have been the biblical kind of love. That wouldn't have been the God kind of love, or the love that the Bible teaches us. It would have been human love, a human kind of love that thinks that if someone's treating you badly, you just take it like a doormat, and you just let someone abuse you, or you let someone take advantage of you, or do bad things to you and just treat you like a dog's body. And we sort of think, I've got to walk in love towards a person. But that's, taking, when Jesus said if someone hits you, turn the other cheek, that's literal. You do turn the other cheek and so forth. There are times when we will have to take abuse and suffering, such as during persecution, okay? If we suffer persecution, I'm talking about persecution in the biblical sense, yeah? Persecution as in you're being persecuted for your faith, you're being hunted down by your enemies, you're being shot at, you're being arrested for no good reason other than being a Christian. I'm talking about the kind of things you see in China and the Middle East and things like that. Some Christians have what I call the persecution conscience, and they claim that they're being persecuted if you disagree with them, okay? And I've seen that on Facebook. People get into a debate, someone disagrees with them, they're going, oh, you're persecuting me. What a load of rubbish. That's not persecution. I'll tell you something, if that was persecution, the early church, all the Christians would have still been alive. The persecution that they endured, I don't need to go into detail. You read about Paul's sufferings, his persecutions, how the church suffered, thrown into prison, all the rest of it, beaten and all the rest. That's persecution. Not someone disagreeing with you, not someone upsetting you, okay? That's not persecution. That could be rudeness, it could be unkindness, it could be them being in the flesh, depending on whether you deserve to be disagreed with or not. Because if you're saying something is foolish or something that isn't biblical, then you're asking to be corrected, asking to be disagreed with. Okay, so we're gonna look at this subject of faith, hope, and love, probably over the next couple of days or so, because I want us to understand that if you want your faith to work, your love has to be working first. We read here, faith works by love. Faith works by love. And if you want your faith to work, you have to walk in love. You may say, so how do I walk in love? But that's what we're going to be looking at. Walking in love, we're going to be looking at walking in love, walking in faith, and walking in hope. So tonight, I'm just going to finish up this sermon with how to walk in love. How to walk in love is, you've got to get into your Bible first of all, look up all the references on love and see what it says, and act upon what it says. So when you look at 1 Corinthians 13, love is kind. Okay, if you want to walk in love, you can be kind to people. If you want to be a person of love, you believe the best of a person without being naive. Okay, there's always something good to believe about a person, even if it was their hairstyle. You could say that person was Jack the Ripper was the worst person on earth, but he had a nice hat. You know what I mean? For example, you can always find something good to say about someone. I know it's a bit of an extreme example, but just being a bit, just putting a point out there. The person of love will hope for all things. They will have strong hope. They will endure things. They will go through things. They will suffer things such as persecution. They will endure things such as if your family's sick and it's hard to deal with them while they're being sick and while they're being a bit grumpy and a bit moody and aggravated because they're ill. Love will endure with them. Love will not say, oh, I'll tell you something, I can't put up with you. You're ill and you're sick and you're being a right miserable so-and-so. Well, if you want to be a person of love, you will endure and you will put up with their flesh and with their moaning, whinging, not with any physical or mental or psychological abuse, okay, verbal abuse, no, obviously not. But if they're just generally being miserable because they're ill, then if we're going to be people of love from our faith to work, then we need to endure that. To not be easily provoked. If you're a person of love, you won't get wound up easily when people disagree with you. People have difference of opinion. And I see so many Christians, or not so many, but I do see some Christians on Facebook, they get easily provoked. And when I say easily provoked, I'm talking about the very first reply to a comment. They're like, go ballistic. After a while, if a person keeps going on and on and on and on at you, then it is going to start stirring your flesh up, especially if you're prone to a weakness like that. So you need to just back off and just sort of say, do you know something, this conversation's over. I'm going to actually quit now while I don't feel offended with you, because I see that if this goes on, it's going to end up in the flesh. So now, before it happens, I'm going to quit and just God bless you and mean it, because the Bible does say, let love be without hypocrisy. Let love be without hypocrisy. That's another verse that we can bring into this. When I do see that again in real life and on Facebook. Oh, God bless you, brother. God bless you, sister. And in your head, you're thinking, I'll tell you something, I want to give you a slap. I want to give you a slap. I want to call you some names that are coming in my head that are not biblical. You know what I mean? And then the hypocrisy comes out. You say, oh, God bless you, and oh, yeah, and all the rest of it. You're not feeling that. You're not feeling that. I'm not saying that if a thought crosses your mind about a person, because we all get thoughts, and the devil may put a thought into your mind and say, oh, well, this is what you really think of the person. But if you don't feel it in your heart, and you're like, no, I ain't thinking that, that's out of order. If your heart disagrees with what the thought's in your head, then that's okay. Okay? What? Out of the abundance of the heart, Jesus said, not out of the abundance of the head. So you can have thoughts in your head. You can even have thoughts come into your mind that are sinful. But if they're not from your heart, like the verse that comes to mind is, if a person looks on a woman with adultery, he's committed adultery with him in his heart. Now, that doesn't mean that if you walk down the road or you see another woman and think, oh, she's attractive or whatever, or a thought comes in your head, or if you was that way inclined before you got saved and you still struggle with it and you get a sexual thought, you need to cast that down in Jesus' name. And you say, no, in Jesus' name, I'll cast that thought out, devil, because that's what the devil's doing. He's coming to tempt you. Now, if in your heart it grieves you when you get that thought, that is a good sign, because that means it's not from your heart. But if you can stand there, lust after a woman, look upon a woman, and begin to entertain those thoughts, begin to, from your heart, get excited and aroused and lustful, you've got issues, you've got a problem. You need to repent of that, and you need to ask God to work on your heart attitude, because that is wrong, that is sin, okay? And that is, because otherwise we'd all probably be sinning every 5 minutes with the thoughts that go in their head. Okay, I'm just going to come up to the end now. So charity suffers long and is kind. It doesn't envy. Okay, it's not jealous about what other people have got and so forth. It does not parade itself, doesn't walk around thinking that it owns the place, doesn't walk around like, you know, some of us Christians who were not Christians in the first place, such as myself. Before we become Christians, we were in the world and we had attitudes. We thought we were tough guys. We thought, you know, don't mess with me. Nobody talks to me like that. And, you know, you walk around with a certain walk and you have a certain look on your face. And when I see these pictures of Christians and they're pulling like hard man faces, I just sort of think, what kind of silliness is that? You know what I mean? You don't walk around with a proud look, because it says in the Bible that God hates a proud look. And when you're walking around going, that's a proud look. You've got your head tilted back, chin up. It's a proud look. We don't want to do that. It's not walking in love. And you may think, well, that's just being ridiculous. Well, I'll tell you something. It's not ridiculous if your faith isn't working. If you're trying to get your prayers answered, I mean, if you want your prayers to be answered, should I say, and you want to be a man of faith as well as hope and love, we need to weed out the seemingly little foolish things in our lives in order to make it stronger. Okay, so you don't go around parading yourself. Thinks no evil, dwells, and you don't dwell on it, and does not rejoice in wickedness. Okay, I think we got all that covered there. When I come back, not today, but probably tomorrow, day after or something, we're going to be looking at faith, okay? What the Bible says about faith. Because sometimes what we think is faith is actually foolishness or presumption or strong-arming God, which is impossible, you know. It's impossible to do that, but some people think that they can use their faith to get God to go around doing whatever they want. And we're going to look at the Bible and see the pure faith that the early church, that the Christians practiced, the apostles, Jesus taught us about, and so forth, taught us how to do. Okay, well, God bless you. I hope you got something out of this tonight. Please share this with your friends, your family, and let them know to be people of love. And I'll probably come up with some testimonies about walking in love as well, because I've had to practice it a few times in my life, trust me. Okay, God bless you. Much love in Jesus' mighty name. Bye-bye.